Hey Ravens fans, I'm Garrett Downing, and this is Ryan Mink, and it's time for this week's edition of the Flock Mailbag. We're here in the locker room with the guy that everybody's talking about. His locker's right behind us, Ray Rice. We got a ton of questions about him, knowing that Monday deadline is looming for him and the Ravens to sign a long-term deal. If not, it means he has to play this season under the franchise tag. So with that in mind, let's jump into the questions, and we'll start with Ray Rice today. We got this one from Twitter, @CDice wants to know if the Ravens and Ray Rice don't get that deal in place and he has to play under the tag, would he hold out, and would that equal a less productive season like we saw last year with Chris Johnson?
Well, I think that it could lead to a less productive season. I honestly do. Just because, we all know Ray Rice has been staying in shape. We've seen the YouTube videos of him carrying kegs up and down the stairs. And, we know he's in great shape, but there is no substitute to what you get in training camp. And getting those live bullets, getting hit, things like that, that gets you in football shape. Right now, he's in great just shape.
Condition, right?
Yeah. So I think that there is the fear of that. And that's why I think Ray Rice, it would be a good move for him. I think he knows it to show up day one.
Well, I think right now, and you alluded to it, it's all speculation. They could sign a deal at any point, and then this is all wiped out of the window. It's not even a question. The other question that I wonder about is what kind of holdout will we be talking about here? Is it a day? Is it a month? Is he showing up the day before the first game? What are we really talking about? Because I think that goes a long way in determining if there's any kind of holdover, any kind of rustiness that he has going into the season.
Oh, for sure. If he's out a couple days, not as big a deal as, if he's coming back one day before the game starts.
Right, and some people ask the question, why would he hold out? Because he wouldn't even be able really to negotiate at this point, because you'd put negotiations on hold until after the season.
Which I think is a good question.
Right.
I really don't see, I know you're going to say the injury thing.
Right, that's what that argument would be. You don't want to risk injury at this point when you don't have a long-term guarantee. That's the argument.
Yeah, but you can get injured at any point at any time.
Right.
I just think that to say, I'm going to skip 3 weeks of practice or a month of practice because I'm afraid I'm going to get injured. You can't. If you play the game afraid to get injured, you're going to get injured.
Right.
So that's if you play any sport that way.
And I think when Ray Rice does show up, regardless of what the contract situation is, he's going to play the game the way he always has, not worrying about getting injured. All right, let's move on to the next question. Also from Twitter, @Room177 wants to know about next offseason. Literally looking ahead here, says, what happens next year with Ed Reed, Ray Rice, and Joe Flacco? Can the Ravens afford to keep all three guys, or would Ray Lewis have to retire?
No, I don't think Ray Lewis would have to retire. And the reason is that the Ravens look to be in pretty good financial place or standing going into next offseason. According to an article on NFL.com, they have the fifth least amount of committed money towards their salary for next season. So,
in English, what does that mean?
that means they got a lot to spend. So, that means that they could sign Joe Flacco at any point this upcoming season to a long-term extension. If they don't re-sign Ray Rice before Monday's deadline, they could also do him next offseason. And I think that's still, I don't have my abacus in front of me. I'm not Pat Moriarty, but I think that still might leave enough for Ed Reed.
Yeah, and I think that the salary cap is always fluid. You can change that really in an instance, because the Ravens have shown throughout history that they have a commitment to keeping their stars. They've kept some of their biggest stars throughout history, and so if you sign one of those guys to a long-term deal like a Ray Rice, that changes your cap situation because you spread the cap hit over a number of years. So yes, I do think they'd be able to keep all of those guys if they want to. All right, third question today comes from Chris Gross, and he's asking about Joe Flacco. Ryan, what do you think Joe is most looking forward to about this season?
I think to having that the touchdown pass in the AFC Championship game next season caught. I think that, everybody on this team is looking for the same thing. They've been looking at the same thing for the last 2 years, and that's to win a Super Bowl. Longer than 2 years, but really the past few seasons been very real chance of winning the Super Bowl. So to me, that's Joe Flacco's sole goal.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you ask any guy here, that's the top priority. But I will say this. I will say that I think Joe Flacco's looking forward to getting a big paycheck here in the next couple of years. I think he's going to get a big long-term deal, and I'm sure he's smiling a little bit knowing that he's going to have the rest of his life taken care of. All right, so that's it, Ravens fans, for this week's edition of Flock Mailbag. And make sure you keep the questions coming because training camp is right around the corner.